Today I'd like to talk to you about attacking and defending, two sides of the same coin, done well and done badly. I'm sorry to say there's no chess positions or games in this presentation. I tried putting some examples in, but the whole thing just got out of hand. It was going to last about 6 hours. So I'll put some examples up on the Devon website. I've already got loads of examples up on the Exeter website, and maybe I'll do a video if I can find one game that's really got a lot of points in, but most games have one good point, and it's hard to find something that will cover all the points I want to make. So no chess in this video, but I hope lots of good chess advice. When you're attacking, well, when do you attack? You should you should feel like you're allowed to attack. You're allowed to attack, and sometimes you have to attack. You're allowed to attack when you've developed all your pieces, or most of your pieces, or at least more pieces than your opponent. But anyhow, you've got more active pieces in play, and then you can have a go. A good question is to ask yourself, have you connected the rooks? If you're attacking before connecting your rooks, it's likely you're attacking too soon. Blackburn used to say, I think, don't start an attack until you've moved your queen's rook. And that's probably good advice. It's not, like all chess rules, absolute, but that's not a bad guide. Attack if your king is safe, your own king is safe or safe enough. If you start attacking when your king's still in the middle or a little bit exposed, it's just going to end badly for you. And Steinitz would always say you attack when you have an advantage, either ahead in development or you've got more space, or at least more space on one side, and you attack on that side. And sometimes you don't have either of those, but you've just got more pieces near a target, the common target being the enemy king, but you can gang up on a pawn just as well. So if you've got one of those sorts of advantages, then you can have a go, and if not, it's not likely to go well. How do you attack? You attack as a team. You attack by getting all your active forces near the target. You gang up on a weakness, and typically, if you want to attack or you have to attack, you're allowed to attack or you have to attack, avoid swaps. Swap off important defenders by all means, but generally swaps are going to help the defender. To get at the target, you may need open lines, and you either use holes that are in the enemy position or you can make holes. Typically, if you're attacking, you use pieces more than you use pawns. Pieces are fastest. They're going to you can send a rook across the board or a bishop across the board in one move. So pieces are fastest, and if when you're attacking, speed is often as the essence. So get on with it. Pawns are the most forcing though, because if you move a queen close to the king, well, if it's not threatening much, it's not going to do much by itself. But any piece that's attacked by a pawn has to move, otherwise it's going to lose itself for a pawn. So pawns are very forcing to chase away defenders, and they're also very forcing to open lines. So if you throw up an h-pawn towards the enemy king's position, it's likely to either bump into another place where it can swap another pawn, or enemy pawns are going to move to make a way for it. So pawns are good for opening lines. A bit more on how to attack. Depends what you're attacking. You're attacking the enemy king stuck in the middle. Firstly, keep them there if you can. Don't let them escape. So if you can block off the squares that it's going to run way long, do that. Bring your rooks into the middle, and then try and blast open lines to get to the king. And if you fancy a mating attack, it's almost worth anything to get to the king, and it's very okay to sacrifice pawns or even a piece to get at the king stuck in the middle. If the king's actually castled, well, bring pieces over to the king's side. Pick on the weakest pawn, the one that's only defended once or not at all. Try and make some weaknesses, make some holes in the enemy position, and use those holes to put your pieces in. And as was just said before, open lines using your pawns. And if there aren't any weaknesses or holes or lines, you have to make them. And I've certainly got an example game I'll show you in a related video. If the centre's closed or blocked up, something like a French defence, that changes the feel of the attack. You can often take your time moving pieces over because it's going to take some. It's going to be awkward for your opponent to get pieces from one side to the other if the centre's closed. Then you may be able to take a bit more time getting your pieces across, and that's helpful. There's something I often call a very slow kingside attack, where you can sometimes see somebody like Steinitz or Fischer with a blocked centre, just taking their time to move all of their pieces across to the enemy king's position. And it seems to take forever, but it's like a glacier. It's slow, but it's very powerful. And there's some examples around of those. If you're playing one of these attacks and you really can't see a checkmate, but you are winning, if you're winning, that's to say that you've got a couple of pawns extra or a piece extra, then stop trying to checkmate. You should just swap off pieces and not pawns and win without risk. So it's not essential. It's not forced that if you are the better player or you're ahead in material, you don't have to keep attacking. The easiest thing to do is to swap off pieces, win the end game without risk. All right. So defending is kind of the opposite of all of those. The most important thing, though, is nothing to do with what's on the board. It's what's between your ears. You need a clear head and a calm heart to defend. So don't panic. Some people, if they attack, they sort of lash out or worry or whatever. You've got your position in your favour. You must keep calm. Secondly, you must defend. And you must defend against threats. You must spot and defend the threats. So it's hard because you need to look for your opponent extra well, because there may be things you can't meet. But you must spot and defend threats. If you just try and make sensible moves, you're just going to lose. Also, don't help your opponent. I've got some terrible examples of where it feels like it's 2 against 1. The defender is doing all the things they not supposed to do. If your opponent's trying to make weaknesses, don't make weaknesses, or at least don't make weaknesses if you can avoid it. And don't open lines. Don't open lines if you can avoid it. All right. To defend, you'll need to get your pieces across if you can. Do seek swaps, especially if you can get the queens off. That's a real help to the defence as a rule. And sometimes the threat of getting the queens off makes your opponent take some time out and slow down. So trying to get the queens off is a big help when you're defending against an attack. You can often make a strong point or a block that your opponent has to go around. Especially in the centre, and defending can be sometimes very much helped by making what they call a strong point or a blockade, and the opponent can't get through. If you have time and you can, sometimes you can make repairs, so that if your pawns are a mess or if there are weaknesses, well, you can defend the weaknesses, but maybe you can remove the weaknesses as well. Lastly, prevention is better than cure. Try and see threats coming and try and see what your opponent is going to try and do and stop it before it actually appears on the board. Once something is happening, can be very hard to stop. If you can see it coming, well, maybe that's the best way to stop it happening altogether. Lastly, one of the last points I want to make about defending is about counterplay. At some point, if you're going to win the game, you must take over the attack at some point, so you must prepare to be active. And especially counterplay, facing an active defender, if you've actually got some threats, if you're trying to do things, that's much harder for the attacker to cope with than just being solid. Some positions, there's nothing to do, you just have to be solid and careful. But if you can be active, you can make some threats to slow your opponent down, and especially if you can counter-attack in the centre, that's very helpful, and definitely the way to go if you can. If you're actually losing, or you think you're very likely to lose, sometimes if you just defend straightforwardly, you're going to straightforwardly lose. So straightforward defence doesn't always make sense, particularly if you're already losing. And the phrase is throwing a spanner in the works. Make a mess, make it hard for your opponent to decide what to do, blow up the position in some way, sacrifice a piece with 2 pawns and get some pawns running, sacrifice the exchange so that you've still got as many pieces as your opponent but different ones, and that can be, it's not the sort of thing a computer would do, but if you can make a mess and make it hard for your opponent to decide what to do, that's going to help your defence. So if you're losing, you have to change the way the story ends. The story's going to be the story of if you're just ahead in material, you swap off, win the end game. You've got to change that story. Keep your active pieces on. Swap pawns off by all means, but keep your active pieces on and take risks. If you're already losing, you're not really risking losing because you're already losing. So have a go. Try and be active. Make some sort of attempt to create some play and create some threats, and then your opponent might miss a threat or be unable to cope with it, and then the story will end with a happy result for you. So back to Steinitz, just as a summary. If you're attacking, don't attack too soon. Attack with a team, and attack only if you've got good reason, if you've got an advantage. If you're defending, defend what you have to, but particularly don't make weaknesses. If you break the rules, well, I'll show you some examples of poor attacking as well. Attacking done badly is either too soon, too lonely, just with 1 or 2 pieces, or people just start attacking but they've got no justification for attacking. They don't have permission to attack. There's no excuse for attacking. If you haven't got the advantage and you just start attacking, that's going to go badly. So I'll certainly show you an example of that. Defending done badly is very easy to find, I'm afraid. Lots of it is about just missing threats. Some of it is about helping your attacker by opening lines when you shouldn't do, and also just going quiet and hoping not to lose. If you just hope not to lose, you're probably going to lose. That's all I've got for you today, and I'll put together some examples in a separate video.